We are literally just days away from one of the biggest Xbox exclusives ever, Starfield. But as the hype builds, so does the anticipation. And as we approach that release date, that anticipation can be a little too much. Fear not though, as we have a list of 7 Xbox games to tide you over until the big day. Some you won't be surprised to see, but there are a couple you might not expect. Let's start with a fairly obvious one. Most people are hoping that Starfield is like a Skyrim in space, so it makes absolute sense to include it on this list. If you haven't played the game, your adventure begins in a world where dragons haven't been seen for over 1,000 years. But it isn't long before one shows up to inadvertently save your life, or rather save you from being beheaded by eating your executioner before proceeding to attack you. Skyrim perfects the open world dungeon crawler in a way that many have tried, but few have come close. There's a reason it remains an incredibly popular game some 12 years after it first released. It may be a high fantasy setting, but it's Bethesda Game Studios at their absolute best. Something that many gamers hope they can replicate in Starfield itself. Another fairly obvious choice, and another from Bethesda Game Studios, is their 2015 subsequent release after Skyrim. It's the exceptional Fallout 4. The Fallout series is a post-apocalyptic, retro-futuristic shooter RPG. It has you exploring the state of Massachusetts after the aftermath of nuclear war. The Fallout games have always done an excellent job of making you feel like you're a tiny part in this hostile new world, at least when you first venture out of the vault. As your exposure builds to the post-apocalypse, so does your arsenal and loot collection. Many players excited for Starfield are hoping that its variety of guns follows the blueprint laid out in Fallout 4. And as the pre-release info suggests, building your own ships in Starfield is a big thing too. As Fallout 4 introduced such a comprehensive base building system, many are hoping that Starfield shipbuilding represents the next evolution. Of course, we can't mention space exploration and ship customization without mentioning the one that does it best, No Man's Sky. 18 quintillion, that's the number of planets available to explore in No Man's Sky. It would take a player 585 billion years to see them all. Sure, this dwarfs Starfield's over 1,000 planets considerably, and whilst procedural generation is used across both titles, the planets in Starfield will be much more detailed. But don't let procedural generation put you off. Bethesda have used it for years, and No Man's Sky is perhaps the best example of using it to present endless opportunities for exploration. Another reason to play No Man's Sky is for the phenomenal soundtrack. It pairs up perfectly with the action on screen. And with Einon Zur in charge of the music for Starfield, after stellar jobs in Fallout 4 and Fallout 76, hopes are high that the sound of Starfield can elevate the sights of Starfield. Bear with us on this next one, as it will take a bit of explaining, but should hopefully make sense. Antstream Arcade is the hit streaming service that recently launched onto Xbox consoles, specialising in retro video games. It contains none of the traditional open world games made popular over the last decade, few first person games, but a ton of space games. The likes of Space Invaders, Defender, R-Type, Alien Breed, Asteroids and more are all included here for you to fully prepare for taking on hostiles from other planets. And who can forget that the absolute classic Attack of the Mutant Camels is on Antstream too. So get yourself fully clued up on the history of space travel and video games, and give any of the 1,300 plus games on Antstream a try before jumping into Starfield. The original Destiny is a perfect mixture of perfect gunplay, world and alien design, soundtrack and lore. Sure, Starfield will be very different. The gunplay will be a slower affair and there is no multiplayer. But Destiny was at its best when exploring these strange worlds alone. Plus, if Starfield can match the crispest of UIs that the original Destiny had, then perusing the menu should be as entertaining as exploring uncharted worlds. We almost didn't include Halo in this list because it felt like one obvious choice too far. There are many reasons we hope that Starfield differs from Halo, not least because the Master Chief is such an iconic character, but there's no freedom to play the Chief as you would choose, something that Starfield would do very differently. But there is one reason to include Halo, and perhaps another point for Destiny 2, the weapons. I need only mention the assault rifle or energy sword, and images are conjured into your heads of these iconic weapons. Bethesda has a history of making unforgettable weapons too. Who can forget the first time they launched a mini nuke from a fat man or used a wabberjack with hilariously unintended consequences? Starfield is a blank canvas currently, so it'll be interesting to see which weapons become synonymous with it. Finally then is perhaps a trilogy that even those with less of an interest in sci-fi have perhaps played, the Mass Effect trilogy. Available on modern consoles in one package titled Mass Effect Legendary Edition, this will be a great introduction into how to properly build a crew for your adventures in Starfield, if you've got a spare 100 plus hours. Everyone has their favourite crewmate in the Mass Effect trilogy, and as many have found out the hard way, safety is not guaranteed. Starfield has already introduced several of their own companions, and whilst it's unlikely there'll be any suicide missions in this game, the prospect of exploring outer space with dedicated NPCs is an enticing one. Confirmed companions so far include space cowboys and robots, but we wouldn't be surprised to see some alien companions hidden in the galaxy too. Whether they live up to the likes of Garrus Vakarian is a big ask, but if anyone can do it, Todd Howard sure can. That's our list. There are some pretty lengthy games here, so you might not find time to play them all between now and the 1st of September when Starfield launches via the Deluxe Edition, but based on the various aspects we've looked at, surely there's at least one here for you to try. Please don't forget to give this video a like, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel for more Xbox news.